Decades ago, the world suddenly underwent a mysterious transformation. Malicious ghosts began appearing across the globe, throwing society into chaos and marking the beginning of the mythical era. In this new age, people could awaken unique classes, learn powerful skills, advance through ranks, and continuously grow stronger. Awakened individuals became humanity's frontline defenders, battling malicious ghosts and terrifying monsters across Blue Star. Through countless struggles and sacrifices, they carved out safe territories where humanity could continue to survive. There was no doubt about it. The mythical era belonged to the awakened class holders. They stood at the center of the world, shaping its future through their strength and determination. The scene shifted to Haiqing High School in the Longxia Federation, where a megaphone announced the start of the awakening ceremony. Students gathered around a glowing golden magic circle with an altar at its center. Combat instructor Lu Hu, a rugged bearded man, told them this moment would decide their futures and hoped each student would awaken their desired profession. Among them was Fang Zhou. Having transmigrated years ago, he saw this as the long-awaited awakening day. Lu Hu called him forward. As students parted, Fang Zhou stepped into the magic circle. As Fang Zhou approached, several girls began discussing what profession he might awaken. One guessed that he would become a priest based on the impression he gave, while another agreed and remarked that it would be a waste for someone with his looks to awaken as anything else. Not everyone shared that view. A blonde-haired boy watched Fang Zhou with obvious jealousy and argued that appearance meant little because awakened professionals ultimately depended on the strength of their professions. A student wearing sunglasses beside him immediately voiced his agreement. From the back of the crowd, a female student spoke up in Fang Zhou's defense, pointing out that the others were simply jealous of his good looks. From the side, Lu Hu reviewed his file, noting Fang Zhou was an orphan of martyrs with strong academics and physical ability. Fang Zhou reached the altar and pressed a finger onto the glowing magic circle. The runes activated, and a surge of energy hit him. A massive pillar of golden light erupted into the sky, shaking the courtyard and forcing students to shield their eyes. Witnesses reacted with shock at the intensity, wondering what profession he would awaken. Suddenly, dark green-black flames broke through the golden light as shadow energy wrapped around Fang Zhou and formed a huge cross-shaped phenomenon above the school. Lu Hu stared in disbelief, confirming it was a heaven-and-earth phenomenon and questioning what profession caused it. Within the spectral mist, an undead army appeared. Skeletal knights, ghouls, horned monsters, and higher undead rulers like a skeletal king, a skull-faced mage, and a horned shaman. At the center, Fang Zhou remained calm and activated a golden system window. It confirmed his successful awakening, Necromancer. As he repeated the name, a massive shadow spirit emerged behind him and merged with his shadow. Students immediately burst into laughter, mocking him for awakening a necromancer, calling it the weakest combat profession despite its rarity, and debating its reliance on the undead realm, which was said to be difficult for living humans to access. Fang Zhou ignored the ridicule. His status panel appeared showing Necromancer, apprentice lower rank and low base attribute. He clenched his fist as a system activated, congratulating him for awakening the Undead Realm Experience system. The system explained it had linked him to the Undead Realm, created an undead clone, and allowed him to explore, devour undead, level up, and even summon the clone into reality at risk. Fang Zhou examined the green skull flame in his hand, realizing the system suited his profession perfectly. He activated the system, and his vision shifted to the Undead Realm. There, a towering skeletal warrior in dark armor stood in a ruined wasteland. Fang Zhou realized this was his clone and learned he could temporarily possess it, gain experience, and that slain undead could later be summoned in the real world. The skeleton stood on a pile of defeated monsters in a world under a blood-red moon. Understanding the system's potential, Fang Zhou concluded that with enough kills, he could build an endless undead army. He declared the entire undead realm would become his hunting ground. Fang Zhou decided to save exploring the undead realm for later and focus on the awakening ceremony instead. He instructed the system to summon his clone into the real world. The system responded immediately, and a green, ice-shaped magic circle formed beneath him. Ethereal chains and glowing runes surged upward as a pillar of green flame appeared, gradually materializing his armored skeleton clone wrapped in a dark cloak. Fang Zhou noted that it could be fully summoned in reality and was currently his strongest summon. On stage, Instructor Lu Hu called the next student, by Xiaochan, while briefly observing Fang Zhou and the skeleton. He felt it was a pity that such a promising student had awakened a necromancer profession. Despite this, several female students approached Fang Zhou to encourage him, saying he shouldn't be discouraged and that even as a necromancer, he could still achieve greatness. They also praised the intimidating skeleton summon. Meanwhile, the blonde-haired student grew irritated, unable to accept Fang Zhou's popularity, and convinced himself the summon couldn't surpass his assassin profession. He decided to destroy it, assuming novice necromancers could only produce a limited number of summons. He quietly activated a concealed weapon skill, Silent Sleeve Arrow, and fired a high-speed projectile at the skeleton's head. At the last second, the skeleton vanished in a burst of wind, causing the attack to miss completely. Before the student could react, the skeleton reappeared behind him and struck him with a heavy blow, sending him crashing to the ground and knocking him out. Fang Zhou then walked up calmly. The injured student tried to retreat and reassess, assuming Fang Zhou himself must be weak despite the summoned strength. In desperation, he charged again with a purple dagger aimed at Fang Zhou's throat. Fang Zhou stopped the attack instantly by catching his wrist mid-strike. Green lightning energy surrounded his arm as he dismissed the boy's overconfidence, then slammed him into the ground with overwhelming force, destroying the grass and leaving him heavily injured and unconscious. Fang Zhou casually remarked that the situation was boring, then left the courtyard with his skeleton following behind. Instructor Lu who soon arrived and asked what had happened. A female student explained that Lu Renjia attempted a sneak attack and was instantly defeated, while another added he was taken down in a single hit. Students reacted with surprise, noting that necromancers were supposed to be weak, yet Fang Zhou had dominated the fight. Lu Renjia was later helped up by classmates but still glared in Fang Zhou's direction, swearing revenge. Seeking privacy, Fang Zhou went to a secluded courtyard behind the school, with his skeleton guarding him. He opened the system interface again, and it prompted him to begin the Undead Realm experience. Fang Zhou weighed the risks and benefits, deciding that exploring the Undead Realm was necessary for growth and could allow him to devour undead to become stronger, despite the dangers. He confirmed the activation. Dark energy engulfed him, and his consciousness faded. He awakened in the Undead Realm beneath a blood-red moon, in a wasteland of bones, volcanic rock, and skeletal trees. A skeletal hand burst from the ground as his armored clone rose into the world. Through the clone's perspective, Fang Zhou saw a status window confirming its stats, equipment, and the skill skeletal armament, which allowed it to forge weapons from bones. Realizing its usefulness, he considered creating a weapon first, but before he could act, 3 massive undead wolves with glowing red eyes emerged from the darkness and surrounded him, preparing to attack as a danger alert appeared. The giant undead two-headed wolf lunged forward, both massive jaws snapping shut at the same time. Caught off guard, the skeleton clone barely managed to roll backward as its claws scraped across the rocky ground. Regaining his footing, he realized that the undead realm was every bit as dangerous as he had expected. As he tried to reposition, a sharp crack echoed through the canyon. Looking down, he discovered that his foot had become trapped in the ribcage of an old buried skeleton. Before he could free himself, the snarling wolf lunged forward again, its 2 heads snapping only inches from his face. Realizing that his foot was still tangled, he struggled against the restraint. Searching desperately for a way to defend himself, he spotted a loose skull near his trapped leg. An idea immediately came to mind. With a swift kick, he launched the skull directly at the attacking wolf. The flying skull smashed into one of the beast's snouts with a loud crack, shattering on impact. However, the wolf barely reacted and quickly shook off the hit. Seeing the result, the clone realized that the attack had done virtually nothing. The undead two-headed wolf continued its relentless pursuit. The skeleton clone leaped and dodged across the jagged volcanic terrain, narrowly avoiding its attacks. As he struggled to adapt to his skeletal body, he admitted that controlling it was more difficult than he had expected. He knew he could not continue fighting this way. Scanning the rocky gorge, his glowing blue eyes suddenly settled on a large pile of discarded bones resting against a nearby cliff. At that moment, the two-headed wolf leaped toward him beneath the blood-red moon. Instead of retreating, the clone stood his ground and activated skeletal armament. Blue and black energy surged around his hand. In response, dozens of bones rose from the nearby pile and floated through the air, rapidly assembling into a massive jagged bone scythe. With the newly forged weapon in hand, the skeleton clone swung it with tremendous force. The razor-sharp blade carved through the air and impaled the undead wolf directly through the chest. The beast let out a painful cry as the scythe shattered its ribcage and pierced deep into its body. The advantage lasted only a moment. One of the wolf's heads suddenly attacked from the side. Before the clone could recover, it clamped its powerful jaws around his left arm and bit down with crushing force. Back in the real world, Fang Zhou suddenly felt a surge of pain. Standing in the secluded courtyard, in the undead realm, the skeleton clone struggled against the wolf's bite and quickly realized that injuries suffered there were being transferred to reality. Feeling the phantom pain himself, He understood that the system was even more dangerous than he had initially believed. Rather than panic, he became even more determined. Since the wolf attacking him was already undead, he focused on turning the situation to his advantage. Using his greater strength, the skeleton clone seized one of the wolf's heads by the neck with his free hand. With a powerful twist, he tore the head completely from its body. Holding the severed head high, he commanded death itself to serve him. With a sharp motion, Fang Zhou's bone scythe transformed into a long interlocking skeletal whip chain. He swung it in rapid, sweeping arcs, releasing a wide circular attack that cut cleanly through the charging wolves. The weapon tore through their bodies, bringing the entire pack down and ending the fight. The battlefield fell silent, leaving only the motionless remains of the undead wolves scattered across the desolate ground. The skeleton clone released his weapon, noting that skeletal armament was even more effective than expected, just as the system-based skill suggested. As he looked at the lead wolf's corpse, he noticed a flickering blue flame rising from it. Curious, he focused on it. Suddenly, a strong sensation of hunger surged through him, sharp and instinctive, forcing him to instinctively clutch his chest. The feeling intensified, overwhelming his thoughts. The system issued instinct-like prompts urging him to consume it. Without resistance, the skeleton clone moved forward and gathered the blue flame. He brought it to himself and absorbed the soul fire in a single motion. A system notification immediately appeared, confirming an attribute increase. His strength rose to 1.1, while his other attributes remained unchanged. Noticing the change, he understood that the increase was linked to skeletal armament and the act of consuming the soul energy. Another system window appeared, identifying his soul power value as 0.1. He questioned what soul power could be used for. The interface expanded and explained that soul power was converted from soul energy and could be used for skill deduction, increasing potential, and enhancing equipment. From this information, Fang Zhou understood the general path ahead. He envisioned the process of exploration, devouring, and evolution as the method to grow stronger. With his skeleton clone's perspective merging with his awareness, he realized that continuous hunting would allow him to grow without limit. He then looked out across the vast canyon, where countless skeletal soldiers wandered aimlessly through the dust. The scale of the hunting ground made the opportunity clear. However, his thoughts were interrupted by a faint sound of footsteps in the distance. The skeleton clone turned sharply toward the source of the sound and focused on a lone dark figure slowly approaching from the shadows. In the dark canyons of the undead realm, a mindless wandering skeleton wielding rusty twin blades slowly approached Fang Zhou's clone. A green system window immediately analyzed the target and identified it as cannon fodder summoned by necromancers, describing it as an apprentice-level undead creature with a frail body and no intelligence, noting that its weakness lay in its soul fire. Seeing the target, the skeleton clone raised his hand and activated skeletal armament. Dark energy gathered from the nearby bone pile and formed a massive jagged bone spear in his grip. The system confirmed that the equipment bone spear had been successfully forged. With the new weapon, the skeleton clone moved forward at high speed and thrust the spear through the chest of the incoming skeleton. The impact shattered its ribcage and released a burst of blue soul fire. The system recorded an increase in agility and soul power. Without stopping, the clone rotated the spear and smashed another wandering skeleton into dust, which triggered another increase in constitution and soul power. He continued absorbing the soul flames as he fought, and the accumulation of power became visible. After clearing the enemies, he reviewed his current status, noting significant increases in all attributes and a large amount of accumulated soul power. Despite his growth, he reflected that it still was not enough and decided he could become even stronger. The setting shifted back to Haiqing High School under bright daylight. Fang Zhou was in the secluded courtyard when he was suddenly called by a familiar voice. A girl, Bai Xiaochan, stood beside him and tried to get his attention. As he came back to awareness, he was surprised to see her there and asked why she had come. She immediately noticed a wound on his left arm and reacted with concern, pointing it out. Fang Zhou saw that the injury matched the bite his clone had received in the undead realm. Misunderstanding the situation, Bai Xiaochan assumed he had been harming himself due to dissatisfaction with his new profession and criticized him for it. Fang Zhou realized he had been misunderstood and decided that he needed a more private place to conduct future undead realm sessions. He told her the wound was just a minor scratch. Bai Xiaochan remained doubtful but was interrupted by the school bell signaling the start of meditation class. She suggested they return to class, and they began walking together toward the main building. As they walked, Fang Zhou suddenly felt sharp pain in his chest and began coughing. Bai Xiaochan immediately insisted on taking him to the infirmary, but Fang Zhou insisted he was fine. At that moment, a system warning appeared, noting that his undead realm session had lasted too long and advising him to pay attention to his physical condition. Fang Zhou then noticed that his real-world attributes had increased, showing improvements in strength, constitution, agility, and spirit, along with a new option labeled deducible skill. He became focused on the new system feature, realizing it could potentially allow him to create new abilities, similar to top-tier awakened professionals. The bell rang through Haiqing High School's teaching building as students sat in their classroom. At the front, Shun Hongyu, the teacher responsible for meditation class, introduced herself. Holding up a meditation manual, she explained that it contained the basic meditation methods corresponding to each student's profession. She instructed everyone to use meditation to display their professional abilities. Shun Hongyu went on to explain that meditation increased spirit power, the foundation of professional skills. She assured the class that failing at first was normal and mentioned that even she had needed half a month of practice before she could achieve it. Fang Zhou listened quietly from his seat, showing little interest in the speech. At that moment, a system prompt appeared before him, informing him that the skeleton meditation method had been detected and could be quickly deduced to the entry stage. It asked whether he wanted to begin learning it. Fang Zhou immediately chose to learn the skill. Energy gathered around his head as the system completed the process. A notification soon informed him that he had successfully learned the skeleton meditation method. The skill description stated that it was an apprentice-level entry-stage meditation method for necromancers that could gradually increase the spirit attribute through visualizing a skeleton. Fang Zhou considered the explanation and found it unsurprising. To him, visualizing a skeleton was no different from looking at his own skeleton clone. More importantly, Fang Zhou realized that whenever his clone entered the undead realm, it also counted as a form of meditation. That meant that while his main body rested in the real world, the skeleton clone could continue cultivating inside the undead realm. In effect, he could train around the clock. A system notification soon appeared, reminding him that entering the undead realm consumed spirit power. If the growth of either body was neglected, the resulting burden could become dangerous. Understanding the risk, Fang Zhou wasted no time and sent the clone back into the undead realm. The skeleton clone immediately resumed hunting low-level undead creatures. Fang Zhou was very satisfied with this arrangement. While other students had to spend hours cultivating, he could continuously hunt monsters and grow stronger at the same time. Before he could think further, another system notification appeared. It informed him that one of his clone skills had reached instinct proficiency and could now be used as material to deduce an unknown skill for his main body at the cost of 10 points of soul power. Looking at his status window, Fang Zhou saw the option for a deducible skill. He then understood that the deduction function mentioned by the system earlier had to be carried out in the undead realm. Armored skeleton clone prepared to perform the deduction. The clone initiated the process, and a system interface appeared with a progress bar indicating that a new skill was being analyzed. Moments later, the deduction succeeded. The newly obtained skill was Bone Javelin. Its description stated that it allowed the user to condense a bone javelin and throw it at enemies. The attack dealt both armor-piercing physical damage and death energy damage, while its quantity, power, and range depended on the user's spirit attribute and skill proficiency. The skeleton clone then held a newly formed bone spear and noted that the bone javelin skill perfectly matched the weapon it had previously created. A system interface appeared, showing a derivative skill tree branching downward from bone javelin, bone shield, giant bone claw, and bone prison. The skeleton clone was surprised to discover that the skill had even come with a derivative skill tree. Soon, it noticed a pair of low-level skeleton monsters fleeing in the distance. Realizing it needed more soul power, the clone immediately focused on the escaping monsters. Seeing an opportunity to test its newly acquired skill, it rushed after them. A bone javelin shot through the air. The massive bone spear struck one of the fleeing skeletons, smashing it apart and scattering bones across the canyon. A system notification then displayed the rewards from the kill. Its agility increased by 0.05, followed by 0.05 soul power. Another notification showed an increase of 0.05 strength and an additional 0.05 soul power. Looking at the small gains, the clone noticed that the attributes and soul power provided by these weak skeletons had decreased. Opening its status window, it reviewed its updated attribute. The clone concluded that the system would not allow endless farming of attributes from weak enemies. To continue growing stronger, it would eventually have to venture deeper into the more dangerous regions of the undead realm. It resolved to keep hunting low-level undead for as long as they could still provide bone essence. The scene then shifted back to Haiqing High School. Inside the classroom, Fang Zhou sat at his desk and quietly chuckled to himself. His behavior quickly caught Shen Hongyu's attention. A classmate behind him tugged at his sleeve to get his attention, but before he could respond, Shen Hongyu had already walked over and stopped beside his desk. Looking down at him, she criticized him for laughing while everyone else was seriously practicing meditation. Fang Zhou tried to explain himself but was interrupted before he could continue. Lu Renjian loudly declared that Fang Zhou simply could not meditate successfully. The classroom immediately filled with discussion. Some students pointed out that rare professions should have stronger meditation effects, while others argued that it depended entirely on the profession itself. Several students then brought up the fact that necromancers were extremely rare and that the skeleton meditation method was rumored to be incomplete. Because of that, they believed it was understandable if Fang Zhou struggled to enter a meditative state. Fang Zhou remained silent as the conversation continued around him. Shen Hongyu acknowledged that meditation was especially difficult for necromancers, but she told him that difficulty was no excuse to give up. She further pointed out that because he was not participating, the entire class had been distracted. To make her point, she directed everyone's attention toward Lu Renjia. Above Lu Renjia's hand floated a fiery dagger handle that he had formed through meditation. Shen Hongyu praised him, explaining that he had already managed to meditate a knife handle into existence within a single class. Lu Renjia accepted the praise and stated that he had only comprehended about 1/3 of the meditation method. He added that such progress merely placed him at the level of an average genius. He then looked directly at Fang Zhou and arrogantly remarked that Fang Zhou should now understand the gap between a necromancer and other professions. Fang Zhou remarked that the speed was indeed quite average. Lu Renjia was stunned by the comment and immediately argued that Fang Zhou had not even entered meditation himself and should look at his own situation before bragging. Before the argument could continue, a surge of dark green energy burst forward and forced Lu Renjia backward. At the same time, Fang Zhou told him to step aside. Shen Hongyu looked over in surprise and told Lu Renjia to focus on his meditation. She then walked to Fang Zhou's desk and demanded an explanation, reminding him that meditation class was meant for learning meditation and not for fighting. Fang Zhou calmly stood up and explained that he had only wanted Lu Renjia to move aside. He added that he wanted to show his teacher the results of his meditation progress. Bai Xiaochan watched nervously from nearby. Around the classroom, students began whispering among themselves. Some wondered whether Fang Zhou had actually succeeded in meditating, while others argued that even if he had succeeded, he could not have progressed very far. Ignoring the discussion, Fang Zhou activated the skeleton meditation method. A powerful wave of dark energy erupted from his body and swept through the classroom. The force alone pushed several students backward. Shen Hongyu grabbed her hat to keep it in place as she stared at the scene in disbelief. She could not understand how someone could achieve such progress within a single class period. Behind Fang Zhou, the phantom image of his armored skeleton clone appeared. Standing within the swirling energy, Fang Zhou confidently remarked that compared to an average genius, he was probably 100 million times better. At that moment, Instructor Lu Hu entered the classroom. He commented that their results with the meditation methods seemed quite good. He then announced that there would be a test the next day. Fang Zhou looked over in surprise and asked about the test. The announcement immediately caused an uproar throughout the classroom. Students complained that combat class was arriving too soon, while others worried that they had not even reached the entry stage of their meditation methods yet. Amid the commotion, Lu Renjia shot Fang Zhou a hostile look. He inwardly mocked him, believing that combat class would be completely different from meditation training. In Lu Renjia's view, Fang Zhou was only a weak mage, and he was confident that Fang Zhou would not be able to keep showing off once the fighting began. In the undead realm, mindless skeleton monsters wandered through the rocky canyons. The armored skeleton clone moved across the barren landscape. Through its connection with the clone, Fang Zhou observed that after reaching the entry stage of the skeleton meditation method, the amount of time he could remain in the undead realm had increased significantly. Determined to make full use of that advantage, the clone raised its bone spear and resolved to kill as many undead creatures as possible before its spirit power ran out. It immediately charged forward. The clone cut through one skeleton after another, smashing them apart as dust and debris filled the canyon. As the battle continued, it pushed itself harder, determined to defeat even more undead. Eventually, after destroying a large number of skeletons, the clone slowed down. Leaning on its spear, it realized that most of its spirit power had already been exhausted. At that moment, a system notification appeared. It informed the clone that Fang Zhou's professional level had increased and that the accompanying skeleton clone could now be strengthened. The clone noted that its efforts had not been wasted and immediately accepted the upgrade. A pillar of green light engulfed its body as the system began the enhancement process. When the light faded, the clone emerged in upgraded armor. Its status window displayed the new information. Its rank had advanced to Apprentice Middle. Its attributes had increased to Strength 5, Constitution 3, Agility 3, and Spirit 3. Its equipment remained a bone spear of gray inferior quality. Its skills now included skeletal armament at instinct proficiency and a newly acquired skill called Brutal Strike at the entry stage. Its soul power remained at 10. A second notification confirmed that the upgrade had automatically granted the new skill. The clone was surprised to learn that upgrading could provide additional abilities. The skill description explained that Brutal Strike allowed the user to instantly unleash tremendous strength in an attack, with the power determined by the user's strength attribute and skill proficiency. Satisfied with the result, the clone concluded that the new skill would allow it to eliminate undead creatures more efficiently. Before it could continue, a wave of weakness swept through the clone as its remaining energy rapidly drained away. It quickly realized that it had become distracted by the upgrade and skill notifications and had forgotten that its spirit power was already overdrawn. Unable to continue, the clone dropped to one knee and supported itself with its spear. The scene then shifted to Haiqing High School's sports field. Students walked along the running track, while Fang Zhou sat on the concrete steps with a hand pressed against his forehead. His head ached from excessive spirit power consumption, and he recognized that his current spirit attribute was still too low. Bai Xiaochan approached and asked what was wrong. She pointed out that he had looked unwell ever since meditation class and had been in that condition throughout the week. Fang Zhou gave a tired smile and told her that he was fine, explaining that he had simply been practicing too much every day. At the same time, he reminded himself that no one could learn about the system. To avoid exposing it, he decided it would be safer to enter the undead realm only when he was alone. As they spoke, Lu Renjia passed by with another student. Looking over at Fang Zhou, Lu Renjia mocked the necromancer profession, claiming that Fang Zhou had become weak after only a little extra meditation practice. His companion joined in, saying that reaching the entry stage of a meditation method was nothing special. Lu Renjia then added that, in the end, true value came from strength, not meditation progress. Bai Xiaochan stepped forward and defended Fang Zhou, arguing that he had never offended anyone and questioning why Lu Renjia and his friends kept targeting him. Lu Renjia dismissed her complaint, insisting that he was only telling the truth. Fang Zhou then walked over and calmly asked Lu Renjia whether he wanted to be beaten again. The comment immediately angered Lu Renjia. He argued that he was no longer the same person he had been a week earlier. As he clenched his fist, orange energy gathered around his hand. Lu Renjia proudly revealed that he had already learned a professional skill and claimed that defeating Fang Zhou would only take a single move. Before the argument could escalate, a stern voice ordered everyone to stop. The students turned and saw instructor Lu Hu approaching. Lu Hu reprimanded them, reminding them that the school taught combat skills to fight vicious ghosts, not to settle personal disputes with classmates. Lu Renjia quickly backed down and admitted his mistake. Lu Hu then turned to Fang Zhou. Referring to Fang Zhou's performance in meditation class, he advised him to work just as hard in combat training. Fang Zhou politely agreed. As Lu Hu walked away, Fang Zhou noticed that the instructor seemed to be paying special attention to him. A moment later, Lu Hu stepped onto the center of the sports field and ordered the students to assemble. The class quickly gathered. He then instructed a student to bring out the equipment for today's lesson. Soon, two students pushed a large covered cart onto the running track. Fang Zhou watched with curiosity as Lu Hu pulled away the covering. Beneath it stood a humanoid test golem. Lu Hu explained that it was an apprentice-level test golem used to measure attack and defense capabilities. Using the weakest Abyss Demon unit, the Imp, as a reference, he explained that a defense value of 100 was required to block its claws head-on. One student examined the worn-looking machine and questioned whether it might break under their attack. In response, Lu Hu struck the golem's head with a loud metallic clang and declared that no new student had ever managed to destroy one. He even promised that if anyone could dismantle a test golem through their own strength that day, he would personally apply for a reward of 20 alliance contribution points for them. The announcement immediately energized the class. Hearing the reward, Fang Zhou recalled that contribution points functioned as a common currency in this world and were required to purchase various items and skills. The students eagerly volunteered to go first. Lu Hu organized them into a line and announced that the testing would begin with the common professions. A dark-haired student stepped forward and cast Fireball. The spell exploded against the test golem, but Lu Hu announced an attack score of only 48 and told him that he still needed more training. The The disappointed student complained that the attack had felt much stronger than the result suggested. Next, a red-haired student used Crippling Strike and received a score of 41. After him, a blue-haired archer fired a petrifying arrow and earned a score of 50. One after another, the students completed their tests. When the common professions had finished, Lu Hu announced that the remaining special professions could now come forward in order. The common profession students gathered together and complained about their result. None of them had managed to score above 60, making the promised 20 contribution points seem completely out of reach. Some of them then began wondering what kind of scores the hidden and special professions would achieve. Standing in line, Fang Zhou glanced at the system interface before looking down at his hands. Since most of his combat strength currently came from his skeleton clone, he began wondering whether the test golem's attack values could be calculated cumulatively. Seeing Fang Zhou standing quietly in line, Lu Renjia mocked him, claiming that his silence and hesitation clearly showed that his attack power would rank near the bottom of the class. Fang Zhou paid little attention to the taunt and merely responded with a casual acknowledgement. Confident in his own abilities, Lu Renjia stepped forward and declared that he would demonstrate the gap between them now that he had mastered a professional skill. He immediately launched into action. Activating Phantom Dagger, Lu Renjia leaped forward and struck the test golem with a powerful slash. The machine's display quickly registered a score of 80. After checking the result, Lu Hu announced that Lu Renjia's attack capability was 80. Pleased with the outcome, Lu Renjia proudly pointed to it as proof of the strength of his hidden profession, Phantom Assassin. However, one of the students reminded him that he was not the only person in the class with a hidden profession. Lu Hu then checked his clipboard and called Yi Fan forward. Yi Fan acknowledged the instruction and stepped onto the field. As he approached, nearby students whispered among themselves. They noted that Yi Fan had awakened as a demon hunter and had already attracted the attention of the school's senior staff, who had recruited him into a specialized research group. Naturally, many were curious about the score he would achieve. Yi Fan raised his hand and summoned a large curved blade as energy gathered around him. He then jumped forward and unleashed Vengeance Strike. The test golem displayed an initial score of 65. Some students were surprised by the result, commenting that it was only slightly higher than the scores achieved by ordinary professions. Yi Fan, however, remained calm and pointed out that his attack sequence was not finished. He immediately launched a second skill. With a burst of speed, he unleashed Vengeance Combo, delivering a series of consecutive strikes. As the attacks landed, the golem's score continued to climb. The display rose from 69 to 88 before increasing further with each hit. After the final strike connected, the score settled at 100. Lu Hu then officially announced Yi Fan's attack capability as 100. Watching the entire demonstration, Fang Zhou confirmed his earlier suspicion. The test golem's evaluation system could indeed calculate cumulative damage from consecutive attacks rather than relying on a single strike. As Yi Fan walked away, Fang Zhou quietly assessed his own chances. Since the golem counted accumulated damage, he concluded that destroying it would not be difficult for him either. After achieving a score of 100, Yi Fan stood confidently on the testing field, convinced that no one in the class could surpass him. Nearby, Bai Xiaochan complained that Yi Fan had only reached that score by stacking multiple attacks together. She regretted not attacking a few more times herself. Lu Renjia immediately mocked her, pointing out that an assassin-type profession would never gain a combo skill like that. Before their argument could continue, Lu Hu called Bai Xiaochan forward for her test. She nervously stepped onto the field and reminded herself that, as the holder of a hidden profession, she could not afford to embarrass herself. Gathering wind energy around her body, she rushed forward and struck the test golem. The machine registered a score of 31. Lu Hu announced her attack capability as 31. Bai Xiaochan could only sigh, concluding that support professions simply lacked offensive power. Lu Renjia burst into laughter and ridiculed the result. He claimed that if he had awakened as an assassin, his score would easily have exceeded 80. The testing continued. Next, Gu Zhiqiu stepped forward and used Chain Wind Energy Missile, earning an attack score of 72. After him, Zhao Yuan activated Shield Armor Charge and achieved a score of 69. Chun Yong then used Giant Hammer Smash and registered a score of 84. As the results accumulated, students discussed the impressive performances. Even so, no one had managed to surpass Yi Fan's score of 100 or destroy the golem. Someone then pointed out that one hidden profession had not yet taken the test. That person was Fang Zhou, the Necromancer. The moment his name came up, Lu Renjia laughed and dismissed the idea that Fang Zhou could accomplish anything. He doubted Fang Zhou would even reach 10 attack points and questioned whether his skeletons could stand properly at all. Fang Zhou calmly asked whether Lu Renjia was really so certain that he could not win the 20 contribution points. Confident as ever, Lu Renjia declared that if Fang Zhou managed to destroy the golem, he would eat it on the spot. Fang Zhou simply smiled and reminded him to remember those words. He then walked to the center of the field and asked everyone to step back. Lu Renjia assumed Fang Zhou was worried about being laughed at for a low score, but Fang Zhou explained that the skill he was about to use required a lot of space. Dark clouds gathered overhead as green magical chains spread around him. Moments later, 10 skeletons rose from the ground. The sight stunned everyone present. Students immediately questioned how an apprentice-level necromancer could summon 10 skeletons when newly awakened necromancers were usually limited to only 2. Some even wondered whether Fang Zhou had already advanced to the Black Iron rank. Even Instructor Lu, who found it hard to believe. He recalled that Su Xinyan, widely regarded as the most talented necromancer in history, had only been able to summon 5 skeletons when she first awakened. The comparison made him question whether Fang Zhou's talent might be even greater. Watching the reaction, Fang Zhou quietly noted that he had already held back. Otherwise, the attention he attracted would have been even more overwhelming. He then gave a single command for the skeletons to attack. The undead army immediately charged forward. Their speed shocked Lu Renjia, and they quickly surrounded the test golem with a barrage of attack. The score on the display rapidly climbed from 30 to 45 and then to 60 before finally stopping at 65. Seeing the result, Lu Renjia relaxed and laughed. He argued that the attack value was nothing special. Other students agreed that while 65 was respectable for a normal warrior, it seemed underwhelming for a summoner controlling so many skeletons. Lu Renjia mocked the result further, pointing out that each skeleton had contributed less than 10 points on average. Fang Zhou calmly told him not to rush to conclusions because the test had only just begun. When Lu Renjia questioned him again, Fang Zhou snapped his fingers. Green energy burst outward. Since 10 skeletons were not enough, he decided to summon 20. A second wave of skeletons emerged from the ground, creating an army of 20 undead warriors. The entire field erupted in shock. Bai Xiaochan watched excitedly and cheered for Fang Zhou, saying she had known he could do it. The skeleton horde resumed its assault. The score quickly climbed to 81, then 97, and soon surpassed 108. Under the relentless attacks, one of the golem's arms was completely destroyed. A massive explosion followed. When the smoke finally began to clear, the golem's head flew into the air while its damaged display crashed to the ground. The screen showed a final score of 999. The students were stunned before breaking into loud disbelief. Fang Zhou had pushed the golem beyond its limits and completely destroyed it. Meanwhile, Lu Renjia stared at the wreckage in horror. Fang Zhou calmly walked over to the shattered machine and placed a hand on its severed head. He reminded Lu Renjia of his promise and informed him that he could start eating the golem now. Lu Renjia could barely respond. Fang Zhou then said that he did not actually have to eat it if he did not want to. However, he warned Lu Renjia to stay out of his sight from now on. Terrified, Lu Renjia immediately ran away while swearing that he would settle the score another time. Afterward, Bai Xiaochan rushed over and excitedly asked Fang Zhou how he had become so strong. She even begged him to teach her. Fang Zhou awkwardly replied that he had only been doing normal meditation training. Instructor Lu, who soon approached as well. He praised Fang Zhou's performance and promised to fight for a place for him on the school's specially cultivated seed list. The scene then shifted to the principal's office. The white-haired principal sat behind his desk, reviewing a report on the latest awakening result. Out of 10,000 new students, 9,103 had successfully awakened, resulting in an awakening rate of roughly 91%. He reviewed a list of 85 rare professionals selected for the seed program, including Zhao Yuan, Bai Xiaochan, Gu Zhiqiu, and Yi Fan. The principal considered adding all 85 directly to the school's list of 100 seed candidates. However, when he reached Fang Zhou's profile, he paused. After looking over the information on the Necromancer, the principal coldly concluded that the profession had no future and decided that Fang Zhou should be excluded from the seed list.